The latest episode of One Piece? Woo-wee! Yeah, damn! This chapter, 1166, called New Tales, is literally setting up the old generation and the new one. Because from this, we are seeing the aftermath of the clash in between Evil Rocks and on the other side, Garp and Goldie Roger. And now, from the first page, we are literally seeing at Gold Roger on one side that's completely kind of beat up and he does not have any more power, no energy, and he's kind of like uncautious. And on the other side, you also have Garp. Same thing. He is on the ground, beat up. He doesn't have no more hockey, no more power. He already gave everything. He's everything. And on the other side, you've got Rocks that now apparently lost all of that devilness that was inside of him because of the attack of Rocks and Garp combined. And from there, you can see that he regained consciousness, but his body is not capable of moving whatsoever. And he's like, "What? I'm still here. How is it possible? I actually need to get out of here." And in his head, he's probably talking using the voice of all things because he is looking at some people coming from the very shadows, and they are three. And at the same time, he's trying to tell Goldie Roger and Garp to get out of here. It's not worth fighting anymore or whatever, but they shouldn't die in here this way. Because the three people that are coming are basically three of the God's Knights, and one of them is Saint Garling. And at the same time, you can still hear it in Rox's head saying, "Oh, it's futile. Hey, Roger, Garp, run away. This is not something you should be dying for." Because at the same time, literally, this was the execution of Rock the Chebek. Because the three God's Knights that we already had on God Valley, well, now Saint Garling basically he came, grabbed his weapon, his sword, and he put it towards Rox's throat, basically like this. And the next shot, you basically it's everything is dark and you just see blood splattering. So you understand that yes, that was the execution of Rock the Chebek, and he died that day on God Valley. And from there, thank God, Rayleigh and Scoper Gapan came back to actually get their captain and even Garp, and that's what they did. And by doing that, basically Rayleigh was carrying Goldie Roger on his shoulder, and Goldie Roger was like, "Oh yeah, where's Rocks? Where's Rocks?" And Rayleigh was the one who told him he basically was killed. So he probably saw it all. And in here as well, we also did not get the fight in between Scoper Gaban and Saint Summers, for example, because we all knew that Saint Summers is scared of Scoper Gaban, so we said that there was probably a fight in between the two, but we never saw it, and until now we didn't see it, and we're never gonna see it probably. So that hopefully is gonna be in the future like movie or something that Ichiro Oda and everybody are thinking of making about the whole God Valley incident and all of that, which could be a great idea to basically see everything in there, hopefully. And that's from that moment where everything is set, where everybody basically got out of God Valley, and you see that God Valley is basically just falling upon falling, and now it's just a flat line on the ground, basically on the ocean. And from there, at the same time, the narrator is saying it would never be recorded in the pages of history. Like a stage curtain coming down, the island crumbled and was swallowed by the thick fog. This is the summary of the little known God Valley incident. However, after a brief moment of silence, countless branching and enormous bolts of lightning split the heavens, and with that several new tales begin. And from that shot you basically see that on top of God Valley there's literally the sky that's splitting, and literally bunch of light like thunderbolts and all of that. So that tells me somebody is using probably a huge concentration of Conqueror's Haki at that point. Who might it be? Probably him leaving the stage, probably. And at the same time, you can see, like in the whole page, you can see Goldie Roger that's being treated. You can see Garp that's being treated. You can see Whitebeard. You can see Linlin. You see Kaido. You see Monkey D. Dragon. You see Shanks. You see Kuma, Ginny, and Ivankov, and then on the last one you see Teach, aka Blackbeard in the future. So literally all of this incident basically sets the next age or the next era of the big people in the world and the new opponents and all of that. And at the same time, we also did not actually get the fight in between Whitebeard and Garling, because of course I remind you, Whitebeard was complaining about the injury that he's got on his torso, and he basically got that injury from Saint Garling, but we still didn't see that fight, and we're probably not gonna see that fight. So there's two fights we didn't see: Scorpion versus Summers and Whitebeard versus Saint Garling. Maybe they actually happened in between when for example, Scorpion and Rayleigh were trying to go and rescue Goldie Roger, and then Whitebeard was also trying to, I don't know, just rescue anybody he could, and he encountered Sangorling, and he, some shit happened. Maybe, but we don't have per se a clear idea of what truly happened in those fights. But then we also jump into the Roger Pirates, and finally we basically get to see everybody. We get to see also Gloriosa that's with them. We get to see Shaki that's with them, and at the same time, they're like, oh yeah, there's the treasure. Well, let's go get the treasure. Let's see what's in the treasure and everything. And as soon as they go to the treasure, they basically hear noises probably from like a baby or something. They open up the treasure, boom, and baby Shanks is there. And they're all like, what? How the hell did we have a baby? But as the narrator says it again, the Rocks Pirates disbanded. Obviously, the information has been tampered with, and the only one highlighted in the headlines is Garp the hero. And from there you jump into actually Garp, who came back to the Marine HQ, and he's talking with Sengoku. He's like, oh shit. He's like, oh no, I don't like that Morgan's actually made me a hero in front of everybody and all of that, while he's not actually a hero. He basically just went against rocks and that was it. But at the same time, Sengoku himself is saying that the world government and the Marines are a massive organization and everything. So sometimes some shit might happen or whatever, but every time that something will happen from the side of the world government or whatever, he will just turn a blind eye. But then Garp is like, what? So you're just gonna say no, and you're just gonna turn a blind eye and keep on going on the ranks and doing whatever you want and all that? And Sengoku is like, no, it's not gonna be the case. He's like, yeah, it's not gonna be the case. But and Garp is like, yeah, of course it's not gonna be the case, because if you become one of those people like that, I'm gonna be personally taking care of you or something like that. And Sengoku at the same time is like, thank God I have a best friend just like you. So thank God they kept each other basically in check throughout their whole training and going through the Marines and all of that, because there's a lot of bad stuff that's actually happening behind the stage and behind the Marines, in the world government and all of that. And Sengoku is not stupid too. Like, he understands that something is really shady going on, and he's not gonna per se like really like close a blind eye or whatever. No. He's keeping up the information for the future. He's keeping up all tracks of everything that happens, so that later, whatever he does, he is justified in what he does. Specifically, just like Garp. Garp, literally, his only way of literally staying in the Marines is because he wants to protect everybody in the Marines, because they cannot go against monsters that he saw on God Valley that day, But then, now we are moving on again to Elbaf, and thank God we are finally back to Elbaf. But it feels like we are back to Elbaf, and we are still in the backflash again. Because, hey, we literally started this whole backflash because we needed to kind of see what happened to King Harold. And right after that, we went to God Valley, rocks, and all of that. And now finally, we are back on Elbaf, back on track in a way where we can talk about what's going on right here, right now, Because let's not forget also where we started, because we are still on Elbaf, and Luffy is with Loki, and Loki is like everything that he knows about the past and all of that. So that's where we started, and look where we went. But hey, we still love One Piece, huh? We still love it. And you can see that in Elbaf, little Loki is talking to Rox, and Rox is like, yeah, if only your dad can join me and the two of us can actually rule the world and all of that. And Loki is basically looking at him like, oh, so you're actually Nika, you look like Nika and all of that. So you basically understand that that whole mythology of Nika and all of that actually comes from Elbaf, and he's the one telling Rox about Nika and everything. And Rox at the same time, he literally knows what to do, and he thinks that, and his best friend, basically King Harold in a way, he is kind of asking him over and over and over and over again, and he says that he will keep asking him forever, basically, to join him, because that's literally the only way to win against the world government and him, you know. But right after that, you get actually a shot, basically, of a hand that's got a paper on it, and basically you understand that it's King Harold that's probably reading that paper, and he starts just on crying because he learns that he lost his best friend, Rox. And during that time, he's basically in a kingdom, and in that kingdom, he's going crazy. He's not going crazy in a way where he's destroying buildings and stuff like that, but he's actually going crazy against somebody else, against another giant that's been doing some shit to that country, and he's basically beating him up to death, kinda, because he is so mad, so pissed, and crying so loud and everything, and he is so remorseful because he's like, oh, I didn't even help him. I abandoned my best friend when he begged me for help, and I let him die. And he is so remorseful about it and everything. And which is totally understandable, you know? And at the same time, he's not actually properly measuring his own strength. So basically, at the same time that he's trying to educate or whatever that other giant, he's basically just beating on him and over and over and over. And at the same time, he says that he cannot allow these giants to actually roam the way they do and keep on scaring the normal human beings and keep on doing whatever they want to do, because what King Harold wants to do is to make it look like the giants are the friends of everybody and no one should be afraid of them. And from here, I also feel a lot of resentment actually coming from King Harold, because now he literally might start actually hating himself or even hating his own people because of, you know, all the shit that they might be committing around the world or everything. So that's why I'm saying it's very tough to be in that position right now and to keep going in a way. But at the same time, we literally see a little page where we have Monkey D. Dragon that's in a cell of the Marines, of course, and on that other side of the cell is his father, Garp. And Garp is like, oh yeah, what are you doing here, whatever. But Monkey D. Dragon is so pissed and he's so mad. He's like, Pops, I'm quitting the Marines. And his dad is like, okay. And he's like, if anything, I despise you. And Garp is like, okay. And he lends him the key. So basically, Garp understands that basically his son saw everything. He understands everything, and he understands that he's got to let him go because that's not the road that he's choosing right now, and he doesn't like the Marines anymore. And his dad understands, understands that, but he literally is just staying there to protect the Marines, which is honorable, but at the same time, hey, I gotta hand it to Monkey D. Dragon because he's the only one who actually really wanted to do something about it, you know? But then as we jump to the ending of the chapter and we go back to Loki going to Elbaf and he's with his children with Loki and Hajrodin, and he's telling them, yeah, hopefully you guys can behave, hopefully you guys can cooperate, hopefully you guys can grow and become allies of each other and all of that and help the country and everything. Because right after that, what King Harold did is very, very dangerous, because he went to Marineford headquarters, and in those headquarters he did something that basically no other giant ever did, because he showed up to the Marines. He was like, I'm not here to fight, I'm just here to speak my truth and say what I need to say. And what he said is, also, he is literally sitting right here, he takes his horns and he he removes them. And he says, please allow me 1,000 years of atonement. I want to apologize for all the mistakes the giants have committed so far. From now on, I want the children of Elbaf to live without harming anyone. I want them to coexist peacefully with humans, and I want to prove my vow for peace. And then he says, I want a chance to atone for our sins. I would even become a slave to achieve that. So that tells you that the resolve of King Harold is pretty extreme, but to the point where you're telling me that he is literally ready to even become a slave to the world government and all of that, that is a little too much, because now you are kind of even selling off your own self to the world government, where you actually don't even know that much about the world government and everything, and you're just, it's for the world peace and everything. I have a problem with that. And that's where we are actually going to talk about this a little bit more throughout the comments down below, guys, because I think that what King Harold is doing right now is totally bad for the future. And because now literally you can see that King Harold is playing right through Im's hands, and Im can actually do whatever he wants with King Harold at that point. So I'm sorry, but I don't justify this behavior so much. Like, even though his excuses are honorable and everything, I don't like the way he does it, So we'll see in the next chapter how this is going to be unfolding, and hopefully in the next chapter we finally get an ending to all of this backlash, and we can finally come back to Elbaf and all of that. And so let me know down in the comments below, what do you think about this chapter? Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.